So today I'm going to show you how to do basic maintenance for your computer, especially if you have furry animals like my cat. This can severely impact the airflow to your computer, which can damage parts in the long run. So I'm going to show you how I take care of my case and how you can too. First step is to always get the glass off so we can look at what's on the inside. And if you're doing this at home, always be careful with your glass and not to put it on places where cats can easily knock it over, because a while back my cats knocked over a $200 LG 165 hertz monitor, and it made my wallet hurt. So I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page when it comes to that, especially if you have animals that like to investigate things. So this is my current build. We're going to be replacing these two RAM sticks. They're not as fast as these new Kingston Furies, and they don't have RGB, or these don't and these do. So obviously I got to put more rainbow vomit in my computer. This is what the plastic, or I guess mesh screen looks like if you have cats, and always make sure to clean this off. You can see where my fans were. That's because all the air is getting intaked on these fans, and if this is blocked, like you can literally scrape the hair off. So especially if you have hairy cats, you need to. I do this about monthly. This has been going on for a bit too long. This is about a month and a half worth of hair, but still. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this spray electronic duster, and I'm just going to go outside in a well-ventilated area and just spray it off and get all the dust and gooch off. And if stuff like that doesn't come off initially, I always take a toothbrush and just scrape it off. It works really, really nice. Just like that. So I'm gonna scrape off the rest of this. You guys don't gotta watch me clean this. After scraping all the cat hair off of it, you can see clearly through it. It's perfectly clean. Now we're gonna go reinstall it back into the computer. And the fans are clean. I'm gonna spray them off just a little bit when we're closing up the case and putting final touches on. But my main concern is getting this AIO off, getting it off the CPU as well. We're gonna repaste it, and we're gonna replace these RAM sticks really quickly. So I'm gonna get started on the AIO. The way that I do it, or I guess most AIOs are hooked up this way. There's Phillips screws with washers underneath them. You just screw them off and make sure to take this part off last, because it'll be a lot easier if you take the main part off first and then take this part off, so you're not like dragging all. Well, I guess for the way I have it set up and cable managed, it's different. So in different cases, it's going to be quite literally different cases. It's going to be a different way you do things. This is a Corsair 4000D airflow, so there's not a lot of room to necessarily wire manage, so I have to like route it up behind here. So actually it would be quicker for me to take this off first before I get into there. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I've got my AIO out, and now I'm going to work on getting this bad boy out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew all of these very quickly. And as you can see, it's really dusty in here. I've been needing to do this for quite some time, not going to lie. If I can, I'm also gonna check out a problem and maybe troubleshoot it with my Samsung 990 EVO SSD. I think I got the wrong gen of SSD for this, so I've gotta figure out a way to to get something working. So I'll figure that out later. That may or may not be included. We'll see. I'll edit this out if it's not. All right. See how I did. Thermal paste spread. Not bad at all. Little bit too much, but I mean, it could be worse. We'll clean that bad boy off. There's the CPU right there. Good coverage. It's a Ryzen 7700X processor, and it's done me well for what I've got it, or what I've used it for. It's definitely looking a little crusty, so I'm going to replace the thermal paste on all of this as well. To get thermal paste off of everything, what I use, you don't have to get exactly that brand of 91%, or it needs to be 91% isopropyl, but it doesn't need to be that brand. That's just what my local store carries. It's just the name brand. Any brand will work as long as it is 91% isopropyl. And if you can, avoid Q-tips like these. They're cotton ones. Try and get the better ones so you don't leave any hairs behind, but I'm going to wipe it off with a microfiber to get rid of any extra hairs that may be on there. As you can tell, I put a little bit extra on there that I probably shouldn't have, so next time I will definitely limit the amount I put on there. Typically it's just a little pea size, but obviously I went pretty overboard. That's what she looks like all cleaned off, and I'm gonna work on this CPU next. But before I do any of that, I'm going to flip this on its back, put the back plate back on as well before I do anything. So I can record this one a lot easier. This is a Q-tip saturated with 91% alcohol. I'm just gonna try and get the edge gloop as much as possible without getting it anywhere else on the motherboard. If you do get it anywhere else on the motherboard, it's not the biggest issue, but it does look bad, so I definitely recommend trying to keep this process as clean as possible. And this is a completely dry side. It works a little bit better to get the big gloops. But when your Q-tip starts to get saturated like this, it's always better to just put it down instead of continuing to use an oversaturated Q-tip. It will take a decent amount of Q-tips to clean off a CPU that has been overpasted, like I overpasted this last time. That's why it's recommended you only put like a pea-sized dot, same as you would put toothpaste on a toothbrush. And I'll show you how much I am now going to put now that I have that knowledge. This is my first personal PC build, so this has been an entirely new learning process for me, and I have enjoyed every step of it. Okay, I have cleaned off a good portion of it, and I'm not going to reseat this chip. I'm just going to put the thermal paste on. But before I make any changes here, I'm going to finish changing out this RAM while everything is out, and it's easier for me to do that. So to do that, and this also goes if you're upgrading the RAM in your system. For DDR5, which I have currently, you're going to want to put it in DIMM slot 2 and DIMM slot 4. And something that I've also noticed, especially with this MSI B650 motherboard that I have, your RAM will not be set to the highest frequency possible right off the rip. So that's something you have to go into the BIOS and fix. I will also show you how to do that. Now, we're not necessarily getting a huge upgrade. I think it does have better timings. 32, no. This is a 16 gigabyte stick of, I believe, 6,000 megahertz, DDR5. This is kit 2, so I'm going to plug this into slot 4 here. And when you are reseating RAM, make sure to get this tooth right here lined up with this spot right there on the motherboard. And then another tip I have to give to new PC builders or people that are just getting into this, you're going to have to push down on this quite a bit. It's going to be a hard push down. Okay, it's fully seated. We heard click on both sides. So now I'm going to take this one, and then I'm going to install it this way. Okay. There's a little bit of wobble, but not too much, and that's how you know. There's a little bit of wobble there too. Okay. This is DIMM slot 2, this is DIMM slot 4. This is what my manufacturer of this motherboard tells me to use, so that's what I use. My next step is going to get the AIO back onto here before I dust any of this out so I don't get any gunk or stuff on this CPU, because that's the last thing that I need, is something in between this CPU and the AIO. Now, this isn't normally what I use for the builds that we do for Benchmark. Typically, we use Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut. But for my personal computer, it's just a 7700X, so it doesn't need that much. So that's probably a little bit extra than I need for this CPU, but as you can tell, I am always heavy-handed with my thermal paste. As long as it doesn't get into any of the pins on the bottom of the CPU, and you keep it relatively clean around this metal piece right here, it will be okay. It will still boot, and there will not be major issues. It will not look as clean when you go to sell these parts, if you do sell these parts. So be mindful of that. The better you take care of these parts, the more money you will get out of it when you upgrade to your next computer. So that's always something I keep in mind, and I try to take the best care of my computer. That's why I'm doing this maintenance and showing you guys how to take better care of your computer systems. So yeah. So I push down really hard to make sure that there's a good contact between the CPU and the AIO cooler, so you get the best performance out of your cooler. I'm going to put the screws back on here, and we are going to get started booting this thing after nice dusting. Now, when you're putting your AIO or even CPU cooler back on, it's very important that you tighten the screws a certain way. The way I do it is I go upper corner, bottom corner, upper corner up here, and then bottom corner down here. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Make sure that it's fully tightened down. I screwed these in with my thumbs in that same pattern before I started this video. I'm just making sure everything is completely tightened down. but you also want to make sure not to over tighten it. There's a very happy sweet spot that I have just got. Okay, so it's not moving anywhere. It's solid on there. I'm gonna rewire this bad boy. This is the 3-pin connector that I need to plug into the pump fan. So I'm gonna do that now and rewire this bad boy. All right, I got this plugged, or not plugged, excuse me. I got this screwed back in. I got this screwed back in and secured. The RAM sticks are secured. Everything is secure. I like to do a nice one over before I go super crazy in my PC. And then another thing I like to do, especially when doing a deep clean like I am today, I am going to take out my graphics card and blow out all the heat fans in here so it has the best cooling as well. I also like to check all my wires, make sure everything's seated properly, nothing's broken. Just kind of take general inventory of how everything is running. And then after this, I'm going to go into the BIOS and update the speeds for this. Alrighty, I have dusted her, I've cleaned the glass, and now I'm going to see if she boots up, and then we're going to get right into the BIOS stuff after this. Okay, now everything should be plugged in, keyboard, mouse, HDMI. We're just going to do one screen for now. I'm going to make sure it works. Okay, we're going to flip on the power supply. We're gonna press the power button. Okay, we're gonna flip the power supply one more time. And she boots on. Okay, now this turning on. Okay, it did turn on, which makes me think that it is just training the RAM currently. Whenever you install a new couple of sticks of RAM, I always let the computer run for like 10 to 15 minutes before I do anything, but actually, this trained faster than the other stuff. We're about to, I believe, boot. Yep, we got the green boot light. We gotta press delete. Devices changed, have been cleared. F1 to run setup. Okay, CPU, good. I'm going to go through the settings really quickly, and I'm going to set that speed. See what I was talking about? It's only set to 4,800 megahertz. I'm going to set it to 6,000 megahertz because that's what that's what the actual transfer rate is. So I am in the BIOS right now, and I went into first. I clicked up here on my MSI motherboard. So here, let me zoom out so you can see the whole screen. There we go. That's a good temperature for idle. That's not bad. That means I didn't do too bad on my pasting job. But anyways, back to this. I go up to advanced. Then from advanced, I go to settings. And then from settings, to overclocking. And from overclocking, what I'm going to do is I am going to turn on AMD Expo on profile 1, and then that will switch the DDR frequency to 6,000 megahertz, and then I'm also going to do that in here, and then after that I am going to hit save configuration and exit, and it's going to reboot after that. And it's going to have to retrain the RAM one more time after that to 6,000 megahertz, and that may take a while. But if that doesn't work and you mess something up in your BIOS settings, an easy troubleshooting option that I have figured out is to just take your CMOS battery, which is that little watch battery, out and let your computer sit for like 10 minutes, and it'll clear your CMOS or your BIOS settings. So if you mess something up, you get the wrong transfer rate or something like that, and your computer won't boot, I usually clear the CMOS first in those situations, or take the RAM out and put different sticks in, but sometimes that can cause more issues. Right, she's running perfectly. I got everything. I got the glass panel back on. Everything's working fine. I'm gonna plug in the deep display port. One thing that I want to work on for this channel is learning how to cable manage a lot better than I already do. That is one thing that I will take all the help I can get in the comments with. Any tips, tricks, anything that you guys have. I want the comment section to be just a library of computer knowledge for people to look on and just kind of like a general forum, like you would with Reddit, you know, the 7-year ago problem that someone has had with your same hardware. You go look in the forum and someone solved it 7 years ago and there's just one comment with the answer. It's just, that's what I want out of this. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and check out Benchmark Pre-Built PCs for your next PC. Thank you.